Hello and welcome back. Maria McMahon here with you. So in this one, I'm going to talk about, is self-love the key to healing from narcissistic abuse? And I'm going to share with you 4 tips in this video that will help you, okay? In answer to the question, the simple answer is, yes, it is. And the more I read and learn about narcissistic abuse, and more importantly, surviving it, healing from it, and then thriving, the more I realize something that I've known all along, and that is that self-love is the absolute key to healing. One of the first casualties of narcissistic abuse is your sense of self-worth. Now, you may have been a happy, outgoing, confident person, but within a few months or even weeks into a relationship with a narcissist, you were barely able to recognize yourself, and you find that you've completely lost your identity. And all of this happens because you are desperately attempting to keep the narcissist in your life happy and in love with you. So stick with me, because I want to share 4 simple but very powerful tips that you can begin using right away, right now, to start healing. Now, it's important to understand that narcissists are impossible to keep happy. But when you start out in a relationship with one, you don't know this. You have absolutely no idea of what you're walking into. You've generally been treated to this hefty dose of love bombing in the beginning, when this person treated you like you walked on water. And of course, you fell hook, line, and sinker for their considerable charm. It was so glorious and so heady and so intoxicating that when the cracks began to appear, you tried desperately to be and do everything possible to keep that golden period alive. And you were so desperate to keep that flame burning that even in the face of blatant disrespect, appalling treatment, lies and deceit, you convinced yourself that there must be something wrong with you. Yes, it must be your fault, because this person was so incredible and so wonderful. You must be at fault now because everything is no longer perfect. And I've had people tell me this. They've come to me broken and in despair and said, it's my fault because he or she was so perfect, so amazing. So what did I do to change that? And I tell them very, very quickly, you didn't do anything to change it. This isn't you. This is not you. Let me explain. And I then go into explaining to them any number of things, depending on exactly where they are and what I'm talking about in this video. Now, all the trying in the world to try and make the narcissist happy and keep them happy and keep that golden period alive, it will get you nowhere, because you cannot please a narcissist. No matter what you do, it will never be enough. And you will always be found wanting, and they'll always have their eye on the next target. They will be engaging in all the usual narcissistic tactics: gaslighting, ghosting, silent treatment, devaluing, criticizing, demeaning, belittling, triangulation. And all of this will have you eaten up inside with confusion, sadness, depression, anxiety, and more. And you'll continue blaming yourself. Now, step back for a minute and ask yourself, can you see how this kind of forced introspection about it being your fault can slowly but surely erode your sense of self, so that you gradually shrivel up, isolated from friends? And very often this happens at the behest of the narcissist, and in another attempt to placate him or her, you comply and you isolate yourself from your family and your friends. And gradually you lose more and more confidence in yourself, and you start thinking you're losing your mind, and you don't know if you'll ever feel normal again. So does any of this ring true for you? If it does, put comment below. Let me know how this resonates with you. And so my question to you now is, what can you do? But it's a question I'm going to answer to help you if you're totally adrift in an ocean of uncertainty, anxiety. Let me share 4 very, very simple but very powerful tips on how you can start breaking out of this horrible situation and start healing immediately. So tip number 1 is wake up and get angry. So if you're in this situation now, you basically need to wake up to what's going on in your life. You need to get angry about what's being done to you. You need to give yourself a good talking to, and a massive shakedown is in order. You're not crazy. You're not the one who's turned from a kind, loving person into a freaking nightmare. You are not the one with the problem here. The narcissist is. So you need to start giving yourself the biggest reality check you've ever given yourself in your life, and start seeing what's going on in front of your eyes right now. And deep down, you know this. You know what I'm saying is right, and you know it's not your fault. So I really want you to wake up if you're in this situation now and smell the roses, because you've spent too long in the pit of despair, and you don't have to stay there. You absolutely do not have to stay there. So I've now given you a good talking to, but I want you to really think about this and give yourself that talking to that's going to change everything for you, okay? Now, when you've done that, I'm going to share tip number 2 with you, because this is going to be a part of what happens for you 9 times out of 10. So tip number 2 is to overcome the fear, okay? So let's say you've established, okay, you know that this is wrong, but on some level, you're too afraid to admit it. So why? Ask yourself that question. What's making you feel that way? It's very often the case that people who become victims of narcissistic partners have had narcissistic parents. So if this is the case for you, then you've actually learned how to accept shoddy treatment from an early age. But your guiding compass, your inner emotional barometer, as I sometimes call it, has always told you that this doesn't feel right. And that's because it isn't. Nobody deserves to live a life of pain and suffering and psychological and other abuse. So if you figure out why you attracted this person into your life, and I have a separate video on that, so I'll put a link for that. You need to check that one out too. Why you attracted, if you figure out why you attracted the narcissist, you can really learn about yourself so that you'll have all these new insights. But don't let the fear of what you'll find stop you from searching. The truth is what you need to get at. And when you do, light bulbs will start popping all over the place. There may be several other layers of fear that you need to deal with. You might be afraid of leaving because you don't want to be alone, or because there is financial issues that's going to cause you some problems. There could be children involved. There could be a whole bunch of reasons why you are afraid to leave, but you've got to dig down on those fears and basically bring them out and write them down and decide that whatever happens, you are going to meet those fears head on and you're going to deal with them, because that's the only way you're going to find emotional freedom, is by dealing with all those fears and getting out. Now, that brings me to the 3rd tip. But I'm not good at this. My fingers are not very flexible. So the 3rd tip is, after you've got that clarification and you've decided that you need to overcome the fears, part of that is this third tip, which is to demand more for yourself. So quite simply, you need to just demand more for yourself. And that starts with self-love. You need to start telling yourself right now that you're worth more than this, that you don't deserve this crap treatment, and that you're going to start caring for yourself. Now, this needs to become a new belief system that you install deeply in your heart. I am worth more than this. I deserve better than this. So I want you to, if this is resonating with you, I want you to just sit back, maybe pause the video for a minute and just say that to yourself and see how it feels. I am worth more than this. I deserve more. I deserve better than this. So start saying this mantra over and over in your head. And then start planning your exit strategy out of this godforsaken relationship, because you owe it to yourself. If you're out of the relationship already, but you're still having all these feelings of fear and uncertainty and lack of self-love, and your self-worth is in tatters, this also applies to you, because you need to change your internal dialogue, you need to change your belief system and believe that you can release all of this and start really, really loving and valuing yourself, okay? Often, pretty much all of the people I work with are out of the relationship now, but they are still suffering massive fallout. They're ruminating, they're feeling worthless, they're having flashbacks, panic attacks, they're trauma bonded, all of that still going on, even though they've left the relationship. And what that tells you is that even though they've left the relationship, they're still carrying all the emotional pain with them. So healing starts from within with yourself. So you need to pick up the reins to start getting yourself back on track. And if you need help with that, you can always reach out to me and we can talk. Many of the victims or targets, and I don't like to use those words, but that's kind of what we use, but many of the people who come to me, who work with me, my clients, they come to realize on their long and painful journey to healing, they come to realize that they are good enough, they are worthy, they are deserving, and they deserve so much better than the unholy crap that the narcissist or narcissists in their lives have subjected them to. Now, when they finally get this, huge healing can happen, and usually does. And that's when they start feeling good about themselves, sometimes for the first time in their lives. They just actually start feeling that, wow, you know, I am a decent person. I do deserve the best in life. I do deserve better than this. And that can be emotionally very, very liberating and freeing, okay? So I want you to get that for yourself. So tip number 4 now is to tune in and trust yourself. So learning to love yourself starts with tuning into the truth of who you are and trusting your gut. And what happens when you're in, especially if you've had narcissistic parents and you've become used to adapting all the time to just cope, to just be able to cope with the day in and day out abuse of being told that you're worthless, useless, or just not being heard, not being seen, not being listened to. You constantly feel invalidated. So you push the truth of who you are down, you bury it deep, deep down, and you cope by just not being in touch with who you truly are. This is a huge, huge part of getting back to yourself and healing. So take some time every day to just tune in and just be with yourself, just sit with yourself and tune into your breath and the essence of who you are deep down. And when you do that each day, I want you to realize and reflect on what I'm going to say to you now. So just relax, tune in, and know that you are unique. You are perfect. And don't for 1 second believe that the narcissist can destroy that deep inner part of you, because they can't if you don't allow them to. You still have that power within you, and you can learn to use it. You can take back your power, and you can attain what I call infinite self-worth. Again, you can live joyfully. What happened to you was not your fault. I absolutely say that. But changing your situation now is your responsibility, and it can only start with you. Healing starts with you. And all the big healing shifts that you will get when you start working on yourself all come from you. Now, healing and learning to love yourself isn't always that easy. It's something you have to learn. If you will, it's a skill that you have to learn. Hey, I have to learn how to love myself. I have to learn how to build self-worth again. So it's a process. And I do have some other videos on self-worth and self-love. So I'll put the links to those either coming up next, or I'll put them below. But if this is resonating with you and you want to know more about how to build self-worth, self-love, then definitely check out those videos. So in the meantime, that is all for this video today. I hope that has helped you, and save this video, go back over this, because these are deep universal spiritual concepts that you need to internalize. And sometimes watching it once isn't quite going to do it. So I recommend you watch this one again, okay? So that's all for today. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate your time, and do check out the 2 videos that are coming up about self-worth and self-love, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much indeed. Bye for now.